And up next, not only the Mile Square City, but one of the tastier towns around. We'll show you the sweeter side of Hoboken after a short break. Stay with us. And finally tonight, Hoboken, the tiny Mile Square City, has plenty to brag about when it comes to its outsized contributions that helped define modern America. Most famous, perhaps, as the birthplace of Frank Sinatra and baseball. Its docks were also featured prominently in the 1950s film classic On the Waterfront. But as Briana Vannozzi found out, Hoboken's also played a big part in satisfying America's sweet tooth.
They were the first candy. It was called penny candy. So you could buy one candy, and they were each individually wrapped up.
That first penny candy, the classic Tootsie Roll treat, starting as far back as the mid-19th century and for several decades after, confectionery powerhouses like Tootsie Roll Industries called the Mile Square City of Hoboken home.
People who lived here recorded a story about how they remember that they could go to Tootsie Roll and that people would throw them warm pieces of Tootsie Roll out the windows.
The latest exhibit on display at the Hoboken Historical Museum traces every tasty step of its role as a sweets manufacturer.
We've been home to some great companies and still some small businesses that produce sweets that people have loved over the last century, really.
That's right, long before the TLC reality show Cake Boss hit the airwaves, placing the town on the confectionery roadmap, it was candy makers and bakeries, large and small, started by German and Italian immigrants, that paved the way.
This is where people worked. They lived at doing this and making these products here in Hoboken.
Like the Italians who popularized ice cream and even invented the very first ice cream cone, or places like John Schmalz & Sons Model Bakery, which started way back in 1867, eventually went on to create Wonder Bread and a brand still enjoyed today, Hostess Bakery.
It was a landmark of sorts for Hoboken. Of course, the building is no longer says Hostess, it's now a drugstore.
With its industrial history, Hoboken offered an economical alternative to New York City and a pool of newly arrived immigrants looking for work and a way to bring their food customs to America. I'm sitting here in the original booth of Schnackenberg's Luncheonette, which opened in 1931 and is still run by the family today. And here's something cool you can use to learn more about the history of these shops while you're at the exhibit. It's called a guide by cell. You dial a number and you listen to a recorded account. In this case, it's by the daughter of the founders of Schnackenberg's.
When they returned here, my father was an apprentice.
Everybody has a memory of Schnackenberg's, but it was also just an emblem of once was 40, 50 of these kinds of places in Hoboken.
That Luncheonette is one of less than a handful of the original businesses still operating in Hoboken today.
These are things that are an important part of our heritage, and we really do want to celebrate and make sure that people understand it.
Briana Vannozzi, NJN News, Hoboken.